I packed my suitcase swiftly, casting a melancholy glance around the bedroom. The sleigh bed, once a symbol of our renewal, now seemed to taunt me. She could have it all. I was leaving her in good stead. The house was paid off, and she desired it more than I did. Our children's college funds were secure. Joey, having learned from his mistakes, was now eligible to return to university, and our daughter was excelling. Despite arguments, I held firm on Joey's college funding, believing in lessons learned. A grim smile crossed my face as I imagined Carol facing her own reckoning. I printed a photo from earlier that night, Carol dancing intimately with another man. Placing it alongside my wedding ring and my lawyer's card, I left them on the table for her to find. Shrugging into my jacket, I departed the house for the last time. After 2 hours on the road, my phone buzzed. Avoiding the inevitable conversation, I silenced it. My new job in South Carolina awaited. I was eager to set things right after the previous manager's missteps. At 46, still in good shape, I welcomed the long hours ahead to keep my mind occupied. Yet, I couldn't shake the lingering love for my wife, hoping distance would temper it in time. Stopping at a truck stop for gas and a break, my phone vibrated again. It seemed Carol wasn't ready to let go. I sighed and answered. "Hello, this is Joseph," I said. "Joe, what's happening?" Carol's voice demanded. "Where did you get that photo? Why is your ring on the table? And where are you?" "Hey Carol, I saw the photo tonight at the Red Horse Saloon. My ring means nothing to me now, and I'm about 10 hours away from Charleston, South Carolina," I replied evenly. "Wait, what doesn't mean anything? South Carolina? Joe, what the hell is going on?" Carol's voice spluttered in disbelief. I sighed heavily. "Carol, I found out that for the past 2 weeks, you haven't been going to Sherry's like you told me. Instead, you've been going to the Red Horse for drinks. Given our history, last week I followed you and saw you dancing with that guy from the picture. When the promotion opportunity in South Carolina came up, I saw it as a chance to make a clean break. I went to the lawyers and worked out a settlement I think is fair. I had doubts, so I followed you again tonight and saw you dancing with the same guy. Maybe I should have confronted you earlier, but your deception about where you were didn't exactly inspire trust," I explained calmly. "Joe, that was Mike from sales, and he's married," she blurted out. "So was Devin," I replied quietly. There was a tense silence on the line. I realized I had been holding my breath and exhaled slowly, taking a sip of my soda. Her breathing was audible on the other end. "You haven't mentioned Devin in over 5 years." "I thought we were past that," Carol said cautiously. "I thought so too. But seeing you sneak around and find you with another man brought it all back. I can't go through that again, Carol. Your affair with Devin nearly destroyed me. I can't do it again. The kids are taken care of. The house is paid off. Your income means I can walk away if I just give you the house. Our debts are manageable, and I'll settle them. My new job provides a furnished apartment for the first year. There's no need to drag this out. Go to my lawyer, pick up the papers. If you don't do it this week, I'll have you served. Review them with your attorney, you'll see it's a fair deal. If you sign, we can be done in 6 months and move on. A clean break is best," I said wearily. "Joe, nothing happened between me and Mike. Sherry was there, she wouldn't let anything happen. I know how bad this looks, and I regret lying to you. Please come back, we can talk this through. I can explain everything," she pleaded urgently. "Carol, it doesn't matter. Even if your dancing could cure cancer, I'd still be moving on. You have no idea how much pain I endured because of you and Devin. It's the lying, Carol. If you felt the need to lie to me, nothing good could have been happening. I would have thought you'd want to end this marriage. Now you can go out, drink, dance, and not have to worry about a jealous husband at home. I know I haven't made it easy for you to do whatever you want, and now you can," I replied with bitterness in my voice. "Joe, that's not fair. All I've ever wanted was to be with you. Even during my stupidity with Devin, I never wanted to leave you. I was emotionally and hormonally messed up, and he took advantage of that. You know this. We went through months of counseling to get through it, she sobbed. Do I know that, Carol? I know what you've told me, what the counselor and the doctor have said. I also know how betrayed I felt finding out you were dancing with another man at a bar. I know the anguish of your repeated lies about where you were. And let's talk about fairness, shall we? How fair was it that I endured the pain of losing a child alone? I didn't have someone on the side who understood me or offered comfort. How fair was it that for over a year, I had only my own hand for relief while you were with some snake oil salesman? Enough. Just sign the paperwork and let's end this sham of a marriage, I said in a cold, resolute tone. I ended the call before hearing her sobbing, trying to revert to the dispassionate state I had before. Driving another 35 miles, I pulled off at an exit with hotels. By the time I fell asleep, I felt somewhat composed. The next day began with my phone buzzing persistently at 7:30 and every hour thereafter. At a fast food stop, I noticed a missed call from my daughter. Taking a breath, I returned her call. Dad, what's going on? Mom said you left her, she said as soon as she answered. Yes, honey, I did. Your mom has been lying to me for weeks, and I couldn't handle it anymore, I replied. Dad, she told me all she did was talk and dance with a guy who lost his child. She was trying to help. She thinks you misunderstood and just took a job in South Carolina without talking to her? There's more to this, Dad, so tell me, she insisted, her voice taking charge. Honey, you're an adult now, so I'll share some background. After little Casey died, both your mom and I were deeply depressed. You might remember Mom being distant for a while? Someone had to keep things going for the family, so I soldiered on. About 4 months after Casey's passing, I found out your mom had an affair with a coworker that lasted about 5 months. While I was suffering alone, she found solace and intimacy with someone else. I paused, steadying my emotions. I had no idea. Why did you stay with her? My daughter asked softly. Because I truly loved her, but mostly because the consequences seemed unbearable at the time. Divorcing her would have meant financial ruin, being a distant father on weekends, and putting you kids through the turmoil of both losing a sibling and witnessing a crumbling marriage. I would have had to manage child support, alimony, hospital bills, and still not afford to live in our home. She had been on bed rest for 6 months before Casey was born and hadn't returned to full-time work, so her income was minimal. I thought the best path forward was to focus on the family and work on repairing our marriage. To her credit, she said and did all the right things, and I genuinely loved her. But I can't go back to that place again. Seeing her dance with another man brought back too much pain. Even though they weren't doing anything physical, her dishonesty reopened old wounds. I'm sorry, honey. I had hoped we could make it work, but I just can't do it. It may not make sense to anyone else, but the pain last night was as intense as it was 7 years ago, I explained. Damn, Dad. I had no clue. We were all messed up about Casey. I can't believe she did that to you. What a bitch, my daughter exclaimed, her words laced with anger. That's my girl. You've always had my back. Though you also knew how to wrap me around your finger, I chuckled softly. Britt, honey, I didn't tell you to stir up trouble with your mom. I shared it so you understand this wasn't about a single incident. You're mature enough to know she's your mom and loves you. What happened was between us, so I'm asking you to stay out of it. Focus on your studies, and know both your parents love you. We'll keep things civil, and we won't involve you or Joe Jr., I reassured her. Yeah, that's not going to happen, Dad, she replied with a hint of a smile in her voice. I need time to process this. I'll call you later today, and you better pick up. I know you go dark when you're stressed, but don't you dare do that to me or Joe, or we'll come find you and camp on your doorstep. I love you, Daddy. Hang in there, she said before hanging up. As I left Ohio, my son's number flashed on my phone screen. Knowing I couldn't avoid him forever, I answered the call. She's a wreck, Dad, Joe Jr. said immediately. Joe Jr. and I had a strong bond, albeit with our fair share of clashes due to our similar stubbornness. Carol often mediated our conflicts during his teenage years, guiding us toward compromise. She had a way of reasoning with him that I couldn't replicate. my approach could easily escalate tensions. Despite our differences, I loved my son deeply and would do anything for him. I'm really sorry to hear that, son, I replied sincerely. She didn't do anything this time, Dad. If you forgave her back then, why are you bailing now? Joe Jr. asked, catching me off guard. How did he know about Carol's affair? Did she tell you about it? I didn't think you guys knew, I responded, curious. Years ago, I overheard a phone call where she was talking to that jerk. She was telling him they were through and she planned to tell you on Friday, he explained. I didn't understand at the time, but I knew it was serious when you sent us to Grandma and Grandpa's for the weekend. That Sunday evening was the darkest I've ever seen in our house. It was even worse than when you came back from the hospital without Casey. It took me a while to piece together what she had done, he continued. I had no idea, I admitted, stunned by his revelation. So what's the problem now, Dad? Why are you running away? I told her she was dumb for lying to you, but she didn't actually do anything this time. Can't you at least come back and talk to her? You're always telling me to face my problems head on. Now it looks like you're avoiding yours, Joe Jr. pressed. Joe, maybe I am avoiding it, and you can judge me all you want for it. When you're in my shoes, you can decide how to handle it. But for now, just like I told your sister, stay out of my personal life. I'm proud of you for getting back on track at U of D. I'm going to end this call before we say something we regret, I said firmly, ending the conversation abruptly. He raised a valid point, one I had been trying to avoid confronting. Why was I so upset and decisive now, 7 years after Carol's affair had ended? I had gone years without even thinking about it before she started lying to me again. I couldn't quite understand why. Perhaps I had never fully forgiven her, despite feeling genuinely happy in recent years. It didn't make sense, but maybe seeing a counselor in my new place could help sort it out. If I was reacting this strongly now, maybe the therapy I had before hadn't been as effective as I thought. I focused on planning for the new plant, trying to lose myself in work and ignoring the incessant buzzing of my phone as I crossed into South Carolina. 8 months later. Today was the day. I signed for the mail and stared at the oversized envelope in my hand. I was officially a free man. Carol had fought the divorce for a month before suddenly agreeing to sign the paperwork. I was surprised at how quickly she had given in. During our final phone call, she explained that she had been consoling a colleague grieving the loss of their newborn. The dancing was merely a part of the setting, and she felt awkward declining when he asked. She assured me it was innocent and meant nothing beyond that second dance. She didn't think he was hitting on her, but the situation made her uncomfortable enough to decide to stop going out. When I questioned why she hadn't confided in me or even included me, given that I had experienced similar situations, she almost broke down. She confessed that she was afraid bringing it up would remind me of her past affair, which she didn't want to do. She believed she could talk to him and encourage him to seek counseling, and because others were present, she didn't think it was a big issue. However, I couldn't move past the deception. Despite reassurances from Sherry, her friend Abby, and even Mike himself, all confirming nothing inappropriate happened besides awkward dancing, I couldn't shake my feelings. I knew holding onto this seemed irrational, but my emotions towards my wife had changed irreparably. My therapist suggested that perhaps I had never truly forgiven her, and these unresolved feelings resurfaced strongly. It seemed plausible, considering how deeply entrenched these emotions had become in my subconscious. As I stared at the envelope in my hand, I decided against opening it just yet. Walking up 2 flights of stairs to my apartment, sorting through my mail, I was startled by shouting coming from the hallway. I saw a muscular man cornering my neighbor, Letitia, against the wall, yelling aggressively at her. You don't break up with me, bitch. We're done when I say we're done. Now get your ass inside and get dressed, we're late for my compa, UGH. His sentence was cut short as my fist connected with his kidney. I knew it wasn't exactly fair to sucker punch him from behind, but I felt justified when he threatened a woman. Before I could strike again, Letitia took action, grabbing his genitals and squeezing tightly. Listen to me, you pathetic excuse for a man, she hissed. If you ever touch me again, I'll cut off these balls and make you swallow them with that sorry excuse for a dick. Got it? Gasping for air, tears in his eyes, he nodded frantically as she applied pressure. She released him, and he collapsed to the floor, limping away down the hallway. Watching him retreat, Letitia slumped against the wall, tears streaming down her face. I knelt beside her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. I'm making spaghetti and always cook too much. Come on in and have some with me, okay? I offered quietly. She nodded wordlessly, and I helped her to her feet and into my apartment. The company had provided me with a spacious 2-bedroom apartment within walking distance of the plant, covering the rent for a year. Considering the amenities and convenience, I was seriously contemplating staying beyond the initial period. While there was no pool on site, we had access to one in the neighboring complex, along with an excellent gym. It was at this gym that I had first met Letitia, my neighbor. I had spent 2 months here, mainly working excessively long hours, 14 to 16 a day, and then crashing into sleep. My doctor warned me I was at high risk for a heart attack unless I scaled back on work, adopted a healthier diet, and started exercising. I chose to limit myself to 12-hour workdays and began hitting the gym. Amidst the chaos of work and divorce swirling in my mind, intense workouts became my escape. It was a healthier coping mechanism than turning to alcohol, plus it was sculpting my abs instead of adding a beer belly. During my cool-down stretches, Letitia often joined me, and we'd chat. She had a fit physique showcased in her workout attire, strong legs, a shapely backside, and a sports bra that modestly flattened her chest. Her curly hair was always pulled back, and she wore no makeup, yet her full cheeks and bright smile were charming. Her attire hinted at her allure without being provocative. She was in the final stretch of medical school, supported by a modest trust fund. Standing in our building's hallway, she looked vulnerable, like a young woman in need of support. I poured her a glass of wine and got the water boiling. I cracked open a beer and went and sat down by her on the couch. She scooted over and snuggled into me while sipping her wine. My dad used to hit my mom. He would pin her up against the wall just like Tyrone did to me and slap her repeatedly, she said in a monotone voice. I hated Dad for doing that, but I was too scared to stop him. Mom would be crying and he would be slapping her, and I couldn't even yell at him to stop. I was so scared. When Ty shoved me up against that wall, I was a scared little 9-year-old all over again. It wasn't until I saw you behind him and knew that you had punched him that I was able to think straight. Thank you, she said as she looked up at me with the prettiest pair of brown eyes. I was happy to do it. Thank you for having dinner with me. You'll be the first person I have eaten with outside of work. I replied. She smiled and gave me a soft kiss on the lips. We ate and talked and had a great time. I even got another soft kiss when she left at midnight. 2 months later we were fucking. It started out innocently enough. I was slightly depressed about turning 47 alone, so she dragged me out to the bar with her friends. She must have told them I was feeling down because I had 4 20-something females flirting and rubbing up against me all night. It was great. Letitia had a couple drinks in her and kept bugging me to show her lady friends my abs. I had been working out hard and was proud that I had the body of a man 15 years junior. Therefore, it didn't take too many drinks for me to lift up my shirt and flex. The response made my year. Rhonda, a cute little Hispanic woman who worked with Letitia, stuck her hand in my shirt and asked seductively, "If I give the birthday boy a blowjob, will you let me take your spankings?" The words hit me like a surprise wave, and my face flushed crimson. I stood there, trying to form a response as laughter filled the room. Just as I began to realize it was a jest, Letitia spoke up. "Sorry, girls. This white boy is getting some dark meat tonight. After I'm done with him, you can have the leftovers," she declared. Once again, embarrassment and arousal collided within me. I twitched as she brushed against me, her touch electric. Then she shot me a sultry look that turned into a mischievous grin. What followed was a barrage of teasing and raucous banter from the young women about what they would do with a mature stud like me, their words, not mine. Throughout the night, Letitia stayed close, her hands finding any excuse to touch me. It was a night that started off great and only got better. When we returned home, Letitia didn't pretend to head for her own apartment. She waited at my door until I unlocked it, then breezed in and headed for my fridge. Without a word, she bent over, grabbed 2 waters, and closed the door. "Do you have condoms?" she asked abruptly. Letitia, you've been drinking, and I'm not sure this is a good idea," I hesitated. She reached down, pulling off her shirt to reveal a lacy black bra straining against her fabulous chest. "First, I've only been drinking water for the last 3 bars, so I'm buzzed but not drunk. Second, this isn't about falling for each other. This is 2 people who need to get laid. So, sit back, let me give you a birthday blowjob, then give me a proper tongue lashing, and we can enjoy ourselves," she asserted, unsnapping her jeans and shimmying them down to the floor. Her underwear matched the bra perfectly. Why not? I let her guide me to the couch, where she undid my pants and proceeded to give me the most incredible 20 minutes of oral pleasure I'd ever experienced. Her technique was masterful, involving lips, tongue, hands, and even a touch of ball play. Carol had never been shy about blowjobs, and I'd always considered hers top-notch, but Letitia surpassed anything I'd known. I nearly had to bite my lip to stifle a cry as I climaxed, painting her face with what felt like a gallon of cum. I was left breathless and lightheaded as she licked her lips triumphantly and headed to wash her face. Looking down at myself, I realized my arousal was flagging. At 47, recovery wasn't as quick as it used to be. But she had certainly earned her promised tongue lashing. As she exited the bathroom, I scooped her up in my arms and carried her to bed. Unhooking her bra, I exposed her glorious breasts and couldn't resist giving each dark nipple a quick suck. Holding her hands above her head, I kissed her deeply, tasting myself on her lips. Moving down her body, I kissed and nibbled, eliciting random gasps and moans. When I reached her nipples, her hands came down to run through my hair. Stopping abruptly, I firmly returned her hands above her head. "Tonight, your body is mine," I growled, earning a moan and a whispered affirmation. Gently biting down on her nipple, I proceeded to lick, suck, bite, and tease those hardened peaks. Moving lower, I recalled Carol's preference for being pleased through her panties. So, leaving Letitia's on for the moment, I used my tongue to trace the fabric over her sensitive folds. Her hands moved down again, prompting me to stop and firmly place them above her head. "Don't make me tie them to the bed," I murmured. I swear the damp spot in her panties grew as she shuddered, perhaps experiencing a small orgasm. Sliding aside the gusset, I focused on her exposed clit with my tongue, slowly inserting 2 fingers into her wetness and tapping that rough patch of skin at the top of her pubic bone. She screamed, and my hand was drenched. By now, I was semi-erect again. Removing her panties, I intensified my assault on her prominent clit with my tongue, rewarded with another scream as she squeezed her thighs together. Pulling back, I admired how her bright pink pussy contrasted against her brown skin. As she came down from her high, she noticed my now 3/4 erect cock. "Give that to me," she demanded, sliding off the bed onto her knees. She attacked it eagerly, and within minutes, I was fully aroused again. "I'm on the pill and clean. How about you?" she asked. "I'm clean but not on the pill. I got a clean bill of health after moving down here and haven't been with anyone," I replied. "Just what I wanted to hear. I want to ride you for a bit, then I want you on top, pounding my pussy until I can't take it anymore. Are you okay with that?" she asked. "Giddy up, pretty lady," I quipped. The morning light filtered through the window, revealing a beautiful, brown-skinned woman lying beside me, drooling on my pillow. As I clasped my hands behind my head, I reflected on the previous night. I had been aroused by the attention from younger women, and Letitia was fun and attractive, but there was no future for us. My children were grown, and I had no desire to start over again. I wasn't in love with her, she was simply a good friend in a new city. Last night had been about 2 consenting adults enjoying themselves, blowing off steam. I hoped she felt the same. "You're thinking about last night," she said, her eyes open and fixed on me. "Yeah, I'm really hoping we didn't ruin our friendship," I replied. "Joe, you're a great guy and I love you to death, but let's face it, we're never going to settle down together. I want kids, a house, a career, the whole 9 yards. Once I finish my clinicals, I'm moving wherever the job takes me. Nothing you've ever said makes me think you want to dive back into kids," cars, and mortgages, she said with a grin. Yeah, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, I chuckled in response. So that leaves us with last night. I had a great time. I'd love to do it again in the future. But if it's too weird for you, we can chalk it up to a one-time thing. Personally, I'd be up for a friends with benefits situation. No strings attached, we stay friends, and when the mood strikes and timing is right, we have fun. What do you think? She asked. I'd never been in a friends with benefits relationship before, and I wasn't sure what to think. But we seemed to be on the same page. Heck, I was a 47-year-old man who'd been in a monogamous relationship for the last 25 years. This felt like a new frontier. I decided to embrace it with a youthful mindset. I think it's going to be really hard for you to suck my cock from that side of the bed, I replied, injecting a bit of humor. She paused for a moment, and I worried I might have said the wrong thing. Then she laughed and dove in, demonstrating her incredible skills. Her blowjobs were absolutely incredible. I called into work and took a personal day, perks of being the boss. After another passionate round in the shower, Letitia made it clear we weren't exclusive. Joe, I'm going to be busy with school and might end up dating other guys. I expect to see more than a few women doing the walk of shame out your door, okay? You're too good of a guy to waste your life moping at home. Live life. Go do some naked rock climbing or talk your way into a threesome. Just do something. You've got a great body, a full head of hair, and that sexy, gravelly voice. Be selfish and treat yourself. And so I did. Sort of. I sat down and made a list of things I'd put off over the years because of family obligations. Buying a motorcycle was at the top. I visited a dealership and was advised to take a safety course, which I did over a weekend for $85. I passed the written and skills tests and received my endorsement card, which also lowered my insurance costs. Returning to the Harley shop, I browsed the used bikes but didn't find one that spoke to me. Just as I was about to leave, a salesperson pulled me aside. One of our riders just got her ex's bike in a divorce. It's in great shape and sounds like what you're looking for. I'll give you her number if you promise to get all your accessories here, he offered. I agreed and promptly called the number, heading to the north side of the city within a couple of hours. I wasn't sure what to expect, but it certainly wasn't this. The homes in this area had to be worth between $3 to $4 million. I drove my 3-year-old spotless F-150 and immediately felt out of place in this affluent neighborhood. Passing through the gates of the gated community, the guard directed me to the specified address. Pulling up, I spotted a beautiful Harley in the driveway. The garage was open, revealing what looked like a similar bike parked next to a newer Lexus. The air here practically smelled like wealth. The woman who emerged to greet me was nothing short of spectacular. She was impeccably put together, with the perfect mix of hair, clothes, perfume, and posture. I was stunned. Confidently, she walked up to me and extended her hand. Hello. You must be Joe. I'm Connie, and this is my ex-husband's bike, she said as we shook hands. Connie exuded professionalism and determination yet remained warm and likable. I was captivated not only by her appearance but also by her demeanor. My good manners and years of professionalism kicked in, honed from countless boardroom meetings. It's a pleasure to meet you, Connie. Thank you for letting me come see the bike on such short notice, I replied. Taylor at the shop mentioned you seemed like a serious customer, not just a looker, she remarked. She proceeded to give me a thorough rundown of the bike, its features, the engine, the fairing, and so on. I found myself more focused on watching her explain than on the bike itself. I had already decided I would buy it. As she finished her sales pitch, I realized I had been staring. She blushed, and I snapped out of my trance. I'll have a certified check to you tomorrow for the bike, but there's one condition. You have to let me take you to dinner tonight or tomorrow, otherwise the deal's off, I said with a grin. She gave me a penetrating look, then a small smile. There's a new Italian place on Shore Drive I've been wanting to try. Meet me there at 7 p.m., she replied. I agreed and shook her hand, impressed by its firm yet feminine grip. She looked stunning when she walked into the restaurant. I had Googled which wine to pair with our dinner, so I was feeling fairly confident. I had briefly considered flowers but decided against it. It seemed too intimate. Mentally shaking myself, I resolved to go with the flow. The food was delicious, and the conversation even better. Connie shared that her divorce had been finalized 6 months prior, and she was grappling with self-reflection on what she could have done differently. We met in law school and had been together for 20 years, she explained. Suddenly, he starts going to the gym, buying expensive toys, getting hair plugs, and sleeping with his secretary. Seriously, how many more cliches can you fit into a divorce? She took a sip of wine and continued. They say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, but let me tell you, a woman scorned who also happens to be an award-winning divorce attorney is even worse. I made damn sure I took as many of those toys as I could. In the end, he was left with his Aston Martin, his bimbo, and his license to practice law. I had an even bigger laugh when his bimbo turned up pregnant. Since he was sterile, there was no way the kid was his. The bimbo went to the curb, and he came crawling back. I told him to get lost and put his bike up for sale just to piss him off even more. I could sense she was still harboring anger toward him, though I admired the firm stance she took. It seemed like she understood that once trust was shattered, there was little left to salvage. Watching her regain composure, she flashed me a beautiful smile. So, what's your story? Your accent suggests you grew up in the Midwest, but your truck's plates say you're a South Carolina boy now. You're not wearing a wedding ring, nor is there a shadow or a dent where one would be. I'm going to assume you're not married, either divorced or widowed. At first glance, your truck indicates a decent but not extravagant job, yet you could lay down cash for a Harley. I'm guessing you're one of those who see a vehicle strictly as transportation. How am I doing so far? She asked. I smiled. Pretty good, actually. I'm the plant manager at Allied Steel, so the job's decent. I've been divorced for a little over a year now. I moved here from Michigan to take over the plant and also to escape memories of family and my ex-wife. I have 2 kids, both in college. They keep in touch enough to ensure the tuition checks clear. I love them both dearly and wish we could stay in touch more, but it's a two-way street. Other than that, not much else to tell, I guess, I replied. It felt a bit strange to delve into all this on a first date, but I figured, what the hell? Everything I said was true. She regarded me with a guarded look. What's the single biggest thing you miss about being married? She asked. I pondered for a moment. Not having someone to come home to and share the day with. I really enjoyed looking forward to spending time with my family, I responded. She burst out laughing. I need to work on my flirting, she chuckled. You were supposed to say you missed the regular sex. Then I would say there's no reason to miss it if you find the right person. Then you would say, where would I find such a lady? And I would say, right here. I blushed. In that case, I miss the regular sex, I joked. There's no reason to miss it if you find the right woman, she replied, a mischievous glint in her eye. Where would I find such a lady? I played along, right on cue. Leaning across the table, she pushed her breasts together with her upper arms. Right here, she whispered in a low tone. I stopped at a gas station on my way to her place and picked up a pack of condoms. Upon arrival, I received a text saying the door was open, so I walked in. I noticed her skirt on the floor and a pair of pantyhose by the stairs. Following the trail of discarded clothing led me to what appeared to be her bedroom door. Her panties hung from the knob, and when I opened the door, there she was on a large 4-poster bed, legs spread wide, pleasuring herself. Quickly shedding my clothes and putting on a condom, I didn't utter a word. Sensing she wanted it fast and intense, I obliged. For the first time since high school, I skipped foreplay and thrust into her. She was wet, tight, and absolutely captivating. The condom and the unexpectedness of the encounter helped me maintain control, and I reveled in her increasing moans. Finally, after climaxing, I rolled off her, taking a moment to appreciate her beauty. Her breasts crossed my mind briefly, but in the heat of the moment, I didn't dwell on it. Bathroom's the door to the left, she murmured, sounding almost asleep. After disposing of the condom and splashing water on my face, I stared at myself in the mirror, contemplating what had just transpired. Unsure of the etiquette, I debated whether to leave or return to bed with her. In the end, I returned to find her peacefully snoring. Covering her with a sheet, she surprised me with a sleepy hug. Deciding to embrace the moment, I slid under the covers and spooned her, eventually drifting off to sleep myself. I awoke to the delightful sensation of a blowjob. As soon as she noticed I was awake, she deftly rolled a condom onto me and straddled my shaft, burying it in her warmth. Cowgirl usually delayed my climax, and the condom ensured I'd savor the experience longer. She rode to her own pleasure before dismounting. Turning her over, I took charge, concluding with her legs wrapped tightly around me. After disposing of the condom, I glanced at the clock. It was nearly midnight. Climbing back into bed, I snuggled close to her. "Thank you for that," she said, gazing into my eyes. I couldn't help but laugh. "Literally, any time you want to do that, just let me know," I replied with a smile. Her grin in response was all I needed. "I bet. Seriously though, thanks. It's been a long dry spell for me with the divorce and dealing with the inevitable bullshit that comes with being newly single. Plus I'm getting around for my move back. I just needed a good bang and a nice cuddle." "Am I sounding too bitchy?" she asked. "Not at all. I completely understand. I'm just not sure about the etiquette in situations like this. I really like you, and I loved what we did. I'd like to see you again, but if you're not interested, I understand." "How soon are you moving?" I asked. "I have to be up in Boston in 4 weeks. That's one reason why I wanted to sell the Harley. I'll be super busy, so I won't have much time to hang out," she explained. Reading between the lines, I gathered she had gotten what she needed and wasn't looking for a repeat. It stung a little, but not terribly. I had a night of good food and good sex. How could that be a bad thing? I gave her a reassuring grin. "Got it. I'll Uber out here tomorrow to pick up the bike." "I hope your move goes smoothly," I said as I reached for my clothes. Oh God, I should be better at this, but I think the sex scrambled my brain. "I'm not saying I don't want to see you again. I'm saying I can't start any relationship because I'll be gone in a month," she confessed, burying her head in the pillow. Turning her over, I kissed her neck and moved down to suckle her nipple. When she responded with moans, I ventured further down, teasing her with my tongue. After about 10 minutes of oral play, she climaxed with a loud cry and sank into the mattress. "Then we'll enjoy each other as much as we can over these next couple of weeks," I assured her. She smiled and gave me a thumbs up before drifting off to sleep as I finished dressing. I pulled the covers over her and kissed her forehead before quietly leaving. When I got home, Letitia must have been waiting for me. "It's been a couple of weeks, and I have a big test tomorrow. Can I get your help for a little bit tonight?" she asked eagerly. Sure. What are you studying?" I asked, unlocking the door. "Silly boy. Let's call it anatomy," she grinned, pulling her shirt over her head. "Shit. What do I do here?" "Tish, can you help me with something first?" I asked nervously. But it was too late. She had already unbuckled my pants and pulled down my boxers. Her face was close enough that she must have smelled what I'd been up to. She stepped back, giving me an unreadable look. I feared I had messed up. Then she burst out laughing. "You little man whore. You've been busy already tonight." "Give me the details," Letitia exclaimed. "Not gonna happen, babe. Just know that she was a recent divorcee who needed some relief. I think I was used as a human dildo tonight, but I'm okay with it," I replied nonchalantly. Letitia gave me a hungry look. "Did you wrap it up?" "Yup," I confirmed. "Do you think you got another one in you?" she asked teasingly. I chuckled. "Lord knows I will try," I said. "Let me go grab a shower and we'll see." "No," she exclaimed. "I want to fuck you knowing that you fucked someone else tonight. For some reason it kinda turns me on." "Okay, I'm a 47-year-old man who is way out of my depth here." I took a breath and gave it a quick thought. I had used a condom with Connie, who I'm sure was clean anyway. Letitia seemed to be in a kinky mood. I decided to go with it. "Fine, Get on your knees and suck me hard. Then I'm gonna lick that little pussy of yours until you scream twice. After that, I'm gonna put my last load of the night in your tight little kitty, I told her in my take-charge voice. This led to the best sex I have ever had in my 47 years on this planet. I almost passed out when she squeezed my head between her thighs during her second orgasm. The fact that I had already had sex twice that night led to a long session involving her on top, some doggy style, and finally a good old-fashioned pounding with her bent almost in two. After it was done, we took a quick shower and dried each other off. We slipped back into bed and she cuddled into me. I took a minute to think about how weird my life had become before I drifted off to sleep. The next morning, I went and picked up the bike, and Connie was being a bit neurotic. "Okay, Joe, I don't normally do things like one-night stands, but I am positively buzzing right now," she told me. I gave her a grin. One-night stands aren't my thing either, but if it ends up being as good as last night, I might have to reconsider, I replied. "Have you ever thought of moving to Boston?" she asked me. I chuckled and gave her a kiss. "Nope, I'm tired of the cold. I spent enough winters in Michigan to know that I like the sunshine," I replied. She blushed. "That made me sound like a weirdo, didn't it?" she laughed. "Kind of," I chuckled with her. "But seriously, you and I are gonna hook up quite a few more times before you leave. Then you need to go to Boston, pick up some 20-something stud, and teach him what you like. But don't get too serious with him because I expect to be the only guy you are fooling around with when you come back down here for business or vacation." "I am so fucking horny right now," she told me with a cute little pout. We were standing in her garage, so I went and pushed the button to close the garage door. She gave me a quizzical look, and then her eyes widened as she realized what I was about to do. I lifted her up and set her down on the hood of her Lexus. I slipped her pants off and pushed her lacy underwear aside. Kneeling down, she was at the perfect height for me to lick her pussy. She came quickly the first time, and then seemed to roll right into another orgasm. I pulled out one of the 3 condoms I had bought and dropped my pants. Standing up, I rolled it on as she looked at me with a mix of fear and lust. Gripping her wrists, I spun her around so she was bent over the hood of her car. Lining myself up, I thrust my full length into her with one stroke. I think she had another orgasm right then. I started out slow but increased my pace until every thrust lifted her feet slightly off the floor. She bit the sleeve of her shirt to stifle her moans. I grunted as I finally filled the condom and took a moment to catch my breath. Pulling out, I admired her pussy as it slowly closed back up. She turned around and kissed me. That was one of the most erotic things I've ever done. Every time I see this car, I'll remember being bent over and fucked like a little slut. "Damn. Why didn't we meet 6 months ago?" she asked breathlessly. "I wouldn't have known what to do 6 months ago," I admitted. Back then, I was still dealing with my divorce. "I was so angry at anything with male genitalia, I probably would have bitten your head off," she said, shimmying back into her pants. "So, we chalk it up to bad timing and have some fun while we can," I suggested. "Yeah," she replied. I noticed and appreciated the condom, but I'm clean and on the pill. Going bareback wouldn't bother me at all. This is one of those things where I don't know the etiquette," I confessed. Her eyes narrowed. "You're fucking someone else, aren't you?" "If you have a girlfriend, I'll find out and tell her exactly what kind of guy you are," she seethed. I glared at her. "Back off. I don't have a girlfriend, but I do have a friend with benefits. She's a sweet girl, and neither of us wants a full-time relationship. But if you think I'm the type of guy who would fool around, maybe we should just go our separate ways right now," I said in a cold voice. She glared back. "Have a nice life," she snapped as I started the motorcycle. Women were crazy. Letitia chuckled at my situation. "Look, Joe, you're going to have to learn to navigate these situations. I can't tell you what to do. Each woman is different. My friends and I are fine with a friends with benefits set up, but there are others who won't be. It might be a generational thing." "You are a unicorn," she explained. I raised an eyebrow at the unicorn reference. "I'm speaking broadly here, but right now in our lives, we want someone who will treat us nicely, care about us, fulfill our sexual needs, and yet not cling. Take Rhonda, for example. She could call you up wanting to blow off some steam. I'm sure you'd go with her, ensure she's safe and has fun, and then come back to screw her until morning. She wouldn't worry about making you jealous or having you Facebook stalk her. If she didn't want to do something, she knows you'd respect her wishes. You wouldn't boast about it. You'd treat her the same as always. Am I right? She queried. Well, yeah, Rhonda's a great girl. And this should be the time of her life when she's out gaining experiences. I can tell you from the other side that the house and the white picket fence come at a cost, I replied. She gave me a quizzical look. Are you saying you wish you had done things differently? She probed. I pondered it for a moment before responding. Yes and no. I love my kids and I love my family life, but looking back, I wonder if it was all worth it. The result of working hard and living for my wife and kids is being a 47-year-old divorced dad who hasn't spoken to his kids in 6 months. I had thought Carol and I would work through things after the kids left, maybe buy a small place and travel. Then she had that affair with that jerk. After that, it was all about holding my family together for the kids. I thought I had moved on, but clearly, that's not the case. From the time I was 20 until about a year ago, I knew what was happening and where I was going. Now, I'm just kind of drifting. I mean, I've had sex with a hot young 20-something and a 40-year-old MILF on the same night. That sort of thing only happens in letters to Penthouse, I said. So, wander around for a while, Joe, she advised. You're 47, not 97. There's nothing wrong with exploring your life. I've told you before to get out and do things. That still stands. It's not going to be me for the next 6 weeks because I have clinicals upstate, but get out of your head and enjoy life for a bit. Here's a thought. Say yes every time you can for the next month and see what happens. You need to find what you're looking for. Also, I'll probably have a lot of pent-up energy to release when I get back, so if you don't mind keeping that weekend open, I'll make it worth your while. I couldn't resist returning her grin. I kissed her on the lips and gave her ass a squeeze as she left to pack. She really was my best friend right now. Even if we weren't sleeping together, she would still be my go-to person. I took a moment to analyze my feelings for her. I loved her, there was no question about that. But I wasn't in love with her. I knew she would find some amazing guy, and when she did, I would genuinely be happy for her. Until then, I decided to let her be my Yoda and follow her advice. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. The number seemed familiar, so I answered. Hi Joe, this is Connie, the woman you bought the bike from? I heard on the other end. I had 2 choices here, but I figured there was no reason not to be nice. Hey Connie, how's it going? I replied cheerfully. I could hear her exhale deeply. Joe, I'm so sorry for the way I acted last time we were together. It took me about 20 minutes to calm down and realize that you did nothing wrong, you were just trying to be courteous. I guess I'm more raw about the divorce than I realized, she said quickly. Believe me, I get it. I haven't had to flirt or put myself out there for over 2 decades. Times have changed, I chuckled. Yes, they have, she agreed. I'm still moving to Boston, but there's an awards banquet/goodbye party next Saturday that I pretty much have to attend. My ex will be there, and I'd like to have a nice piece of arm candy with me. The room and drinks are covered by the company. All you need to do is show up and escort me for a few hours. We can make a weekend of it, where you can take off after the awards. Would you please be my date? I would love to, Connie. There's just one thing, I replied, making sure my door was closed. What's that? She asked. If I'm going to spend a weekend with a sexy woman in a posh hotel room, you better be ready for me to do unspeakable things to that tight little body of yours for hours on end. Does that fit with your plan? I asked, half wondering if I had just talked myself out of an invitation. There was a long pause, and I started to worry I had gone too far. But then she spoke again in a low, throaty voice. You can't say stuff like that right before a meeting. I'm about to meet with a client and my panties are soaked. I'm going to hit a few shops, and you're in for a weekend to remember, Buster. I have to go, but I'll text you with the details. She said, hanging up abruptly. We had sex like rabbits. She must have spent a fortune on lingerie and toys. When we discovered that her ex was staying in the same hotel, she put on a bikini that barely covered anything, and we headed down to the pool. She pointed him out to me, but honestly, I would have noticed him anyway. He was the guy with a small potbelly and a receding hairline, glaring at us the whole time. His tribal tattoo looked ridiculous on his pale, undeveloped shoulders. There were a few 20-somethings gathered around the swim-up bar. I got a few glances from the ladies when I swam over to get us some piña coladas. Suddenly, I felt two soft breasts pressed into my back, a hand down my shorts, and another reaching for a drink. I turned and gave Connie a passionate kiss, removing her hand from my shorts. Let's finish these and head back to the room. You're only at 5 orgasms for the morning, I said without bothering to lower my voice. The girls at the bar started whooping and cheering as Connie chugged her drink to cover her embarrassment, but she ruined the effect by getting a brain freeze. As we walked past her ex, I slid my hand inside her tiny bikini bottoms and gave a squeeze. We didn't look back. The award ceremony was dull, but my date looked stunning. We spent the rest of the night dancing, and then I took my time making love to her body for an hour. I licked, stroked, fingered, caressed, and nuzzled her, coaxing at least 3 powerful orgasms from her before finally filling the condom. It was messy, and I was slightly concerned that not all the sperm were contained, but she reassured me. She was on the pill and too exhausted to worry about it. We had one more goodbye session in the morning before I left to prepare for work. After tidying up the apartment, I sat down with a glass of scotch and contemplated. My feelings for Connie were exactly where they should be, friends with benefits. Letitia was in the same boat. Though I initially thought their jokes about me being their booty call were just that, it seemed Letitia's whole crew was on the same page. Surprisingly, I was okay with that. It dawned on me that I wasn't yearning for a long-term relationship. What troubled me was figuring out who I was now. The motorcycle was a good start. I loved the feeling of riding on the open road. I decided to go skydiving at least once and even contemplated growing a beard, something Carol had disliked. A tattoo crossed my mind. I recalled a compass rose and anchor design I had once seen and shrugged off. Now, why not? Another decision was to rekindle my love for hiking and camping, hobbies I had enjoyed as a teenager but had set aside. Chuckling to myself, I realized this was the classic stuff of a midlife crisis, but it didn't bother me. For the first time in a while, I felt excitement about what lay ahead. Write your opinion in the comments. Thanks for watching and have a great day.